Thank you for downloading from the BBC. For details of our complete range of podcasts and our terms of use, go to bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.
I'm speaking to you from the Café Afa in Tangier, Morocco. This is a tumble-down, cliff-top cafe. You can smell the mint tea, there's plants and cats and strange smells all around. But most of all, you can hear the sea, and I can actually see Spain just across the way. You've got Europe, you've got Africa, separated by the Mediterranean, but once upon a time, right up until the 15th century, these were both the same land, Al-Andalus. These two nations were once brought together by one religion, Islam. Most importantly, Islam under the rite of Maliki, or what's often referred to as Malikiism, or the Malikite rite. Now, my view is that this is a very tolerant, very moderate, very free-flowing form of Islam, which completely suits the different races, languages and creeds that we have in this part of the world. And it's still very much alive here in North Africa. I'm Andrew Hussey, and for Heart and Soul from the BBC World Service, I'm in Morocco, and I'm here to explore Malikite Islam and see what it means in the 21st century. The traditional elements of the Maliki faith are all wrapped up with music and the mystical. And one of the examples of this is the beautiful ancient Gnawa music, which is a kind of deep African blues. And I'm told that this music's literally got the spiritual power to heal you. This has got to be one of the coolest settings in the world. I'm sitting in the Petit Zocco, the heart of Tangier, with one of the coolest men in Tangier, who's Abdallah El Gourd, who's the master musician of Gnawa, and he's got his free jazz hat on, his shades. What is Gnawa for you?
Gnawa, it's a group of black musicians. They were before us as a slavery. They get them liberty, and they create this kind of music which they brought Black Africa. Spirituality, it came by your feeling while the music is going on. No translation, no explication. Everyone has a special text for himself. To understand it, you have to live with.
Yeah.
You have to take time. Without time, you will not arrive to understand what means Gnawa and what they do.
Is Gnawa something important in the Maliki tradition, do you think?
The Gnawa, all of them, they are Muslim. And all of them, they believe this kind of Maliki. I will respect it and we will leave it.
Is there any relation between what you do and other strains of mystical Islam, such as Sufism?
Yes, we are nearly the same.
And this is one of the constants that you find here as you wander the ancient streets. I think it's a really interesting mix, the way that it all fits together. And I've always been fascinated by the elements of faith and mysticism actually lock into each other. As commissioning editor for IB Taurus, Titania Wild is just about to publish a series of books all about Moroccan life, having spent 5 years living in Marrakesh.
From the very first moment I arrived in Morocco, I felt that very, very strongly. And wherever you step foot, particularly in the Medina, you come across this theme of belief in the mystical running through everyday life. So whether that's witch doctors making potions and spells, which are still bought by your average Moroccan. And then you have this very prevalent belief in jinn, genies as we call them in the West, arguably more in certain sections of society than others. So I'd say your affluent Moroccan probably won't allow themselves to admit that they believe in jinn, or genuinely won't. But a lot of people do. I remember when we moved into our riad in the Medina, the riad had been empty for several years, so our builders insisted on having an exorcism, which involved playing a surah from the Quran over and over and over again for a whole day. which we did and which was actually very beautiful. They wanted to slaughter a chicken as well. You know, this was something that was just an everyday fact of life. And we painted a hand of Fatima on the door, and this is a piece of iconography that you'll see everywhere in Morocco, which is supposed to ward off the evil eye, is probably the most obvious symbol of this continuing belief in the magic. It's just a sort of unspoken thing that it's part of life and it's not going to be stamped out.
I first came to this region, northern Morocco, about 30 years ago, and it's no understatement to say it was one of the defining moments in my intellectual life. And I've been coming back ever since. I've been learning the languages, I've been studying the politics and the religion of the place, and I've been speaking to people in my determination to get some of a grasp on the complexity of culture and faith. This is a tough town. It's a beautiful town, but it's a very tough place in North Morocco called Tétouan. And I've worked here, and I'm back now looking to find a guy called Mohammed Ben Aboud. He's Professor of History at the local university, Abdul Malik Asadi, and I want to get an idea from Mohammed of what defines Maliki Islam, what defines the Maliki school.
Malikism is fundamental for North Africa, not only for Morocco, for Algeria, for Tunis, because it is a juridical system of law, functioning rather efficiently, in my opinion, for many, many centuries. It's part of our cultural heritage, because all the great thinkers of this area, and in Al-Andalus as well, developed in the general framework. It has affected the lives of many, many people over many, many centuries. And the first principle or source is the Quran. So if there's any case that is presented, the jurists would first seek the answers in the Quran. The second important source is the hadith, the sayings and the actions of the Prophet Muhammad. The third principle, and it is here that Malikism is different from all the others, is called Amal Ahl al-Medina, which is the actions of the companions of the Prophet in Medina. And then other principles explain why Malikism has lasted for many, many centuries. For example, free thought. When they don't find answers in the sources which I've mentioned, well, then they try to find new answers.
One of the things that fascinates me about North Africa, which I love about North Africa, is it's not one thing, it's a hybrid society. Is that why you think Malikism has been so successful here, that it's flexible enough to adapt to cultural and historical change?
Well, if it didn't do that, we wouldn't have Malikism today. Let's take the case of Tétouan. The social composition of our society includes Andalusians who came from the Iberian Peninsula, includes Berbers, includes Arabs, it includes a Jewish minority which has flourished for more than 500 years. So with the evolution of society, new problems have appeared. And so they needed new answers, and the Maliki Rite was there to furnish these answers and to enable society to evolve in a rather positive way, rather than suppress new tendencies. I'm not saying that we have an ideal society. That does not exist. But relatively speaking, tolerance has been a fundamental ingredient here.
So I'm walking down a sunny street in Tétouan. It's a lovely afternoon, and there's shady trees, guys loafing around at cafes, whitewashed walls, carts with donkeys carrying, melons and all kind of stuff. And apart from the taxis, which are filled to the brim, the guys in baseball caps and the girls with iPhones, this is how I imagine Spain, or at least Andalusia, Arab Andalusia in the 15th and 14th century. A relaxed, tolerant place. There's a lot of veils, there's a lot of older people wearing traditional clothes, but there's also a lot of sassy looking young people. There's girls in t-shirts and jeans, there's lads in baseball caps and wearing football shirts, and this is what I think Maliki looks like.
كنت أظن وسط المدينة القديمة.
Well, we're driving through Tétouan, and I'm travelling with a companion called Eric Calderwood, assistant professor of Spanish at the University of Michigan. With his exquisite darija and local knowledge, Eric is driving us, he's guiding the driver down to the Medina.
He's a great, yeah.
Tétouan has got a fantastic Medina. It's huge, it's a massive white labyrinth, and it's built into the cliff face of this mountain just over here. Actually, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
This is the part of the city that dates back to the late 15th and early 16th century. This right here, for example, is the oldest mosque, called the Casbah Mosque. And over the past 5 years, they've restored it.
Eric here has actually written extensively on the place. I think it's very cool the way he wanders the labyrinth, speaking fluent Darija to practically everybody in the Medina. But he's taking me to see a place at the heart of the Medina, which Eric reckons, should actually temper any superficial reading of Maliki's tolerant attitude as a constant over the centuries. I'm standing with Eric at the heart of the Medina, and we're looking at the hatch, which is the way into the caves that would have been the secret prisons.
That's right. Not secret, though, definitely underground. I mean, this is where, during the 16th and 17th century, when there was a very significant trade and captivity in both Europe and North Africa, this is where they would all get placed. There are a number of famous people who talk in momentous, grave terms about the underground prisons of Tetuan, including Cervantes, who in one of his works says, "Esto es peor que las mazmorras de Tetuan." This is worse than the caves of Tetuan, as if that was like hell on earth itself. And right underneath where we're standing right now, there's an altar where the Franciscans who would come and try to negotiate the ransom of the captives who were here would come and say mass underground to all the Christian captives.
And what I'm wondering is that, we talk about the Maliki writers, tolerance and free-flowing. Is this one of the hidden secrets?
Well, the practice of captivity was definitely common on both sides. I guess I just wanted to caution against locating any perceived Moroccan tolerance in a sort of trans-historical ethos to be located in the Maliki school. Modern Morocco has been very savvy in cannibalizing some of the discourses of colonialism and turning them into some of the more positive aspects of what we now know as contemporary Moroccan culture.
But whether we call it, the Maliki tradition or whether we call it Moroccanness, there is definitely a fluidity to daily life here. Ordinary people negotiate in several different mental and linguistic landscapes all at once. I mean, that's a very unique place to be, isn't it?
It is, and what speaks to me about Morocco, and it's precisely that.
You're very at home here. I mean, how does it function in day-to-day life? Because just looking at Morocco, looking at a Moroccan street, it's not all the same thing, whether it's veils, non-veils, whether it's fashion or whatever.
A lot of the things that you're associating with religion, I associate with social custom and culture, much more than to interpretations of religion. That said, they're very often dressed in the guise of religion. This is an extremely devout country. It's an extremely devout country, and surprisingly, unlike a Syria or like a Lebanon, which has a huge Christian population, a Shia population, a Sunni population, this is a country that's very homogenous religiously. I mean, it's a 99.9% Sunni Muslim.
Of course, you've got to remember that religion is only part of the story in this really volatile region. Next door, in Algeria, for example, you've got the brutal colonial history mixed with recent inroads by jihadist groups that make it a far more dangerous place than Morocco right now. Although Algeria, too, is traditionally Maliki. It can work the other way too, though. I've spent a lot of time in Tunisia recently, and I'd argue that in Tunisia, the recent resurgence of more liberal groups in the post-Arab Spring environment is really connected to the Maliki roots. Certainly in Morocco, I think religion's got a huge role to play in shaping the politics of the future, but for good and not for ill.
Francesco Cavatorta is my name. I am Associate Professor at Université Laval in Quebec. My work focuses on Islamist movements in North Africa. Just like in the Christian world, when it's time to legislate, there has to be some sort of connection between the cultural environment, which is largely determined in some respect by religion, with the legislation being produced. So there is a strong relationship between the two. And in the Maliki tradition, in some ways, it's easier to keep up with the idea of progress on modernity. In some ways, Malikism is perceived to be more liberal, and you can see it in everyday practices of faith, but also in tolerance for what more conservative schools would think deviant behavior, practices of Sufism, for instance, or the idea of worshipping saints and so on.
If you come on holiday to Morocco and you're enjoying yourself, you shouldn't actually get carried away. This is still not a liberal democracy. Actually, it's still really a dictatorship. But it doesn't mean progressive laws can't be brought in with the help of religion, in fact.
Malikism has been appropriated to justify considerable changes that other traditions like Wahhabism would not even begin to contemplate. Morocco, up until 2004, did not give that many rights to women. Eventually, reform did take place, and Islamists, which originally were opposed, came around the idea. Partly because the king made them come around, but also in part because the new laws were articulated through a reinterpretation of religious precepts. So the king justified it through that this was consistent with the religious tradition of the Maliki school. And so basically he was saying, well, what they do in Saudi is what they do in Saudi. What we do here is according to what we've always done, according to the Maliki school.
Francesco mentioned Sufism there, and the fact that Maliki in Morocco tolerates Sufism. Now I'm walking down to Tangier's Hotel Shella, and I want to meet an ethnographer from New York called Deborah Caption, and she's one of the world experts on the subject of Sufism. She's also a practicing Sufi mystic herself. And what I want to do is talk to Deborah and actually work out what happens in the relationship between Gnawa, Maliki and Sufism.
And many forms of Islam in Morocco are Sufi infused. And you can't understand very much in Morocco if you don't understand what Sufism is about, because it infuses so much of Moroccan life. The Gnawa propitiate the spirits, and if you're a Muslim, a believing Muslim, you believe in many realms. You believe in angels, you believe in God, you believe in spirits as well, jinn. And Sufis distinguish themselves through practices that you might call ecstatic, rapture, music, movements of the body, and a practice called dhikr, which means remembrance. And their practice is the remembrance of God by chanting the names of God or silently intoning the names of God anytime and all the time. And in intoning these, there is a connection between the nifs, the ego, and the larger community, and brings you to levels of subtlety and consciousness that leave deep impressions and marks on your being.
Has this been a spiritual journey for you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The listening to chanting, to the names of God, but also to these beautiful songs of devotion connects one's breath, one's heart, with something that is vibrationally extremely subtle and very transformative. It's extremely powerful. It's not something that leaves you unchanged.
My view is that Sufism, which other parts of Islam would actually find deeply threatening, is something which Malikism allows to be at home.
In Morocco, there's the school of Islam that reigns. However, the daily practice is really impregnated with mystical Islam. Since Mohammed VI took power, he has a new minister of religious affairs who is a historian, and he's a Sufi. At this moment where we are witnessing a rise in a kind of orthodox, very conservative Islam, is not accidental.
It says DJ Muslim. DJ Muslim. Déjà,
il habite ici?
Oui, mais il a un magasin tout près d'ici.
Ah, tu cherches le magasin?
Oui. One of the biggest hits in the past few years in Tangier has been a rap record called Ana Musulman, I'm a Muslim, not a terrorist, by a guy called DJ Muslim. Now, the thing is, this guy actually got a shop in a shopping mall up at the end of the Avenue Mexique, and everybody seems to know him, so I've been wandering up here for half an hour, everybody pointing me in the right direction. I get there and he's not flipping in. But having said that, everyone loves him, everyone knows him, so I'm going to have a chat to the people of this working class district to ask them what they think about DJ Muslim and ordinary Maliki life in Tangier.
Habla de la realidad, sobre todo de la realidad, de los problemas de la gente.
People like him because he speaks about poor people, he speaks about the reality of life, and he says what he thinks. So he does actually speak for the people of Tangier. Morocco, Tangier is changing very fast, and it's all to do with changes in the Arab world, but we're going to do it in a peaceful way because we're the kind of peaceful people that we are. We're very moderate people. It's absolutely the case because we're Maliki Muslims and we do things in a peaceful way and we do things in an ordered way and we're for peace, and that's what peace is all about, la paz. It's all to do with education and the way that we talk about religion, the way we deal with it, and we don't, we are moderate people. Radicals in Morocco, they're really a minority, they're really not important in our daily lives. Ten years ago, the terrorist minority did make itself felt in Morocco, with bombings in Casablanca of Spanish and Jewish interests and terrible, atrocious killings. But the Moroccan people themselves reacted very violently against this kind of terrorism, and in some ways it led to a strengthening of that Maliki identity, not a weakening. Every time I come back to Morocco, I find something different, which inspires me, which sometimes also bewilders me. Yesterday, I was looking at a place where Christians were kept captive underground for decades, if not centuries. But this is the sound of St Andrew's Church in Tangier. It's a place I've been to lots of times in Tangier. I like to wander the graveyard, and it's a place where Christians can practice their faith openly. This is Yassin Kemish. He's a Muslim and he lives in this beautiful cemetery and he works here as the caretaker of the church.
Me, I have a lot of friends, Christians. I'm Muslim, yeah. Because me, I respect all religions and I believe to all religions. I'm tolerant. Here in Tangier we have a lot of churches, a lot of synagogues. In all people, they live together. We don't have any problems here between religions in Morocco. Yeah, we have the peace. Yeah. This church, we have three religions in style. We have three religions. We have, for example, the Lord's Prayers, translated in Arabic, around the arch. And also in the alcove, like the mosque, we have the verses of the Quran. In Arabic, it's mean Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And we have Jewish Stars of David, and also Orthodox icon. Also, this church faces east, faces Mecca. This church is like example for toleration and peace between the three religions.
Of the Gospel according to St. Luke, begin readings from verse 11. Glory to Christ our Lord.
Well, my name is the Reverend Canon Dr. Medhat Sabri. I'm Egyptian by birth. I'm actually the chaplain of the Anglican Church in Casablanca. I'm here in Tangier today to take the service. I honestly must say that I felt more than welcomed and quite happily walk around in the streets with my cassock. Contrary to that, many people, when they see me as a clergy, they wanted to offer me tea and coffee and welcome me in their homes. I think the model of Islamic religion in Morocco is a very good one, and I'm not very happy these days about what's going on in Egypt. I think when religion is mixed with identity, and especially political identity, this is when faith becomes at risk. In Morocco, I don't see any danger in Morocco taking any hard lines on other faith or religion at all. I don't see that at all.
One thing I'm sure about, you can't get too complacent about Maliki's power to hold extremism at bay. This city, Tetuan, is a hard-edged town. I walked down towards the consulate before and there was a black flag of Hamas and a lot of Islamist slogans in a crowd there. And I'm looking at my phone on a lot of the stuff that's coming into this place from different parts of the region on television and social media. There's a very skewed view of the world here, and you can pick this up very quickly.
Gulf countries are rich. North Africa, on the other hand, is poor in many ways, and therefore there is an obvious power imbalance between the two. The big regional players can try to shape other societies by funding the creation of private mosques, private foundations. The Saudis can buy media organizations, they promote them, place them on a satellite, and promote their own version of what Islam should be. And if we add to that migration, whereby a lot of North Africans end up going to work in the Gulf or in Saudi and in some ways adopting modes of social behavior from those countries, well, you can see why there is now a tendency in some sectors of society to adopt modes of behavior and ideas perceived to be imports from Saudi and from the Gulf. But at the same time, local traditions, national traditions, particularly in North Africa, are still extremely strong. The appeal of secularism and liberalism is also strong in many sectors of society. This does not mean that they don't want religion. It's that they appreciate the fact that liberalism has quite a bit to contribute to the growth of their own society.
I'm Andrew Hussey, and for Heart and Soul, I've been travelling through northern Morocco, trying to work out how Maliki Islam works around here. The first thing that strikes me is that everybody I spoke to is proud to be a Moroccan and proud that this is their form of Islam. Secondly, I think just about I've started to understand how it works in everyday life. Morocco is a very mixed up place. There's music, there's mysticism, different languages, different people, different races, and I think it's all the better for it. And I think the thing is that Maliki allows everybody here to find a common ground with each other. It's actually a very binding force. Actually, it's of the people and for the people. That's what I admire about it. It's not perfect, but for now, right now, in the early part of the 21st century, I think Maliki is not only attractive, workable and inclusive, it may well actually provide a workable future on both sides of the Mediterranean.
There are dozens of different podcasts now available from the BBC, including news, documentaries, science, business, arts and sport. For details of them all, go to bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.